Hey guys, Bowie here, and this video will be about positioning and skill priority. What I mean about skill priority is a thing not often discussed in Dota. Let's say you're playing a core position, which means that you don't want to die most of the time. In some games of Dota 2, you can only show up or use your spells after some spells have been casted, like Black Hole if you're against Global Silence, or more complicated, let's say you're a carry Juggernaut, by far the most farmed hero in your team, but you're against an equally farmed Faceless Void, and you have no saves in your team. If you try to initiate a fight, when they try to push on you, you're going to die 99 times out of 100, and that's not good. What's interesting about this subject is how open-ended it is. It requires the player to read the game and situation and adjust accordingly. So what I'm going to show you is some footage and how a particular player decided to behave and act during team fights, so that the initial seed of what I want to convey gets clearer. A good example is in this Enigma game. Even though the Enigma completes his Linken's, before that he couldn't really initiate any fights, so that's why he was not there first, because Venge would always be there to swap him even through BKB. In a harder example, even with BKB and Linken's, there is a chance that Terrorblade can break it with Sunder and then later Venge cancels it with swap. So the decision to not start a fight and engage with Black Hole later will probably yield better results, and we can clearly see this happening here. In this next clip, we can see how positioning and skill priority interact hand in hand. What happened here is that Radiant got Aegis, but eventually committed Metamorphosis to get one pickoff, and some towers, so even though the Aegis is in their hands, they're weaker, and the Dire team decided to smoke. This is an example of skill priority, but in a global scale. A team decided to smoke to abuse a cooldown, but keep watching how long Enigma holds onto his Black Hole, but at the same time, how useful he is, even though he's not using it. He engages with Malefice and Midnight Pulse, but retreats. There's no way a Nyx is worth a Black Hole when Radiant has an Aegis. More heroes start showing up, and note how far away from the fight he is. Since he has a Linken's and can't be swapped back, he engages with Malefice once more, but obviously committing Black Hole here is definitely not worth it. By being very patient and positioning himself out of harm, every single skill that he has to worry about starts being used. Swap saves the Terrorblade for a while, and he keeps playing very far back. I can see a lot of players trying to engage right now, but the cores that matter were in weird positions. As they chase, they position themselves perfectly for the Black Hole that not only kills the Aegis target, but more importantly, the factor that makes this Enigma initiates is Metamorphosis being used. Terrorblade is not the greatest Aegis hero because he loses that skill if he dies, and by waiting the spell and proccing the Aegis afterwards, even if he respawns, he'll be way too weak to fight. Squeezing everything out of your presence, your farm, and your spells is the way to go if you want to be the best version of yourself possible. And while we work mainly with Enigma examples, the logic employed here can be transferred to anything Dota related. Remember that long duration disables don't necessarily need to be used aggressively. In fact, more often than not, when you use them in response, there will be less ways of cancelling it, which works wonders for you.